2, 1.
Are who we thought they were.
Playoffs? We'll talk about playoffs.
We just talk about practice. We sitting here, I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we're in here talking about practice.
NFL reactions with the Sports Memery.
So what a bizarre fucking intro week to the 14, season, or I should say end to the 14 weeks of the NFL season. Lamar Jackson, we've all been there. You got to shit, and nothing's going to wait for you. You got to shit at that very moment, but very few of us have ever had to shit with just a few minutes remaining in an NFL game. So that was pretty fucking unique. I mean, honestly, guys, we've all been there. You had to shit. What's one of your better shitting stories?
Oh my God! So just like you, I'm a sales guy. I'm a road warrior. So one time I was literally in a traffic jam on my way to Chicago, and I pulled over. There's a major road from Indianapolis to Chicago called 65. Literally pulled off of 65 and shat in a cornfield. And I did that exact same walk that he was doing. I don't know if you guys saw him running in the tunnel. He was doing like arms straight to his side and kind of waddling.
Dude, we've all been there. We've all had that run. And dude, that was the run that I identified with so specifically, where your cheeks are clenched. And we've all done that run, whether it's getting out of your car on a road trip and it's been a long time that you couldn't find a rest stop in a while, so you're just fucking running out. But we've all been there, but we've never been there with a couple minutes remaining in an NFL game. That's what makes it so unique. So, Josh, you got any good shitting stories for us, buddy?
I've had a couple close calls. Of course, there's nothing better than a good work shit. And just sometimes you underestimate what you ate the night before. You're in the middle of a meeting, got to call big timeout, be right back. It's been a little bit difficult on Zoom now in our virtual world. Kind of hard to get out of a meeting and take a shit inconspicuously. But really just at work, sometimes you got to go when you got to go. You pucker up, you make the walk, your eyes water a little bit, but no serious accidents. No serious.
So
accidents.
I wasn't me. And he's a pretty active guy in our Facebook groups and at the Sports Memery. But so I'm not going to say his name. But in high school, he was a lineman, and I don't know if he whether got hit or something didn't set well. But he literally shit his pants at practice, and he was brown legger just for the rest of his high school life.
Yes. Well, dude, that's what's so funny is the power of shitting. What a great game that was last night. Ravens-Browns is obviously what I'm talking about. And yet the only thing that we can talk about today, it's not Lamar Jackson's spectacular comeback. It's Lamar Jackson having to clench his cheeks and run desperately to the bathroom. There haven't been many examples of this. Paul Pierce is the one that comes up. They pretty much faked a cramp with Paul Pierce too, but it's just so fucking funny, man. Well, it was such a great game yesterday, and how the media is just, kind of painting with a broad brush. All we can talk about is Lamar just clenching his cheeks, shitting. So any other shits you can recall from the previous week?
But before we get into other shitting performances, what about the betting? I know Josh and I are big into gambling. I grabbed Baltimore. It wasn't my lock of the week. That ended up being Tennessee if you listened yesterday's or Sunday morning's pod. But I almost thought about the lock of the week being Baltimore minus 3.5. I did take that as part of a bet. And I didn't watch that game after the debacle of the Pittsburgh Steelers Sunday night, but I was so elated to find out I won this morning on a fucking safety. What about one of the best beats ever, or one of the worst beats?
I was on the opposite end of that one. I was just casually watching, like, wow, what an amazing game. I had locked in at I think it was Browns 2.5 or 3. I was like, oh, I'll take the push. No big deal. I'll get my money back. And then they're running around. They're inching closer to the end zone. I'm like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? And then running out of, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't. Yep. And
from a betting perspective, such a wild week. From just a game perspective, dude, such ridiculous games. Brandon, as a Steelers fan, we need to talk about the Buffalo game. I have so much to say about this game, but dude, I gotta hear like what went wrong. Obviously the Steelers, they lost to Washington, completely unexpected, but this was a little bit more expected. And man, it really looked like you guys had it in that first half, but really started to turn at the very end of that first half. Well, what took place there?
So let's name the shitty things that happened to the Steelers in that game. Big Ben's arm strength, Randy Fichtner's play calling, cornerback's shoes. Did you see how many times a DB slipped from the Steelers in that game? I mean, it's like they stepped in shit and couldn't stand up straight. It was absolutely ridiculous. Run game shit, offensive line play shit. I mean, I haven't seen the Steelers. I mean, the Steelers had in the Dallas game, there were some positives. In some of the other games where they've played bad, there's been positives. There wasn't a single positive outside of the defensive line push in the first quarter and a half. That's not a good offensive line. Their offensive line dominated in the second half. Probably TJ Watt's worst game. Again, there was just not too much to feel good about, which is why I didn't tune into last night's game at all. I was so fucking pissed Sunday night with how shitty the Steelers played. Worst game I've seen in a long time.
It seemed like the Buffalo offense just kind of took over in that second half. And yeah, man, I agree with you. Terrible play calling from the Steelers and just really disappointing all around. But just that complete second half was just a train wreck. The running game continuously got worse. I think it was a mistake giving up on James Conner so early. I don't know about you guys, but he was getting shut down early, and they just completely gave up on him. They went to lesser talents. Let's be real. The play calling is a huge problem. Josh, any thoughts on that Steelers game?
Well, for me, I was just continually impressed by the Buffalo Bills. I mean, I truly believe Josh Allen's a dark horse MVP candidate. I mean, I think we all know probably Aaron Rodgers is going to win it this year, but Josh Allen, if he was a little bit more consistent and maybe even pulled off that Kansas City win earlier in the year, is front runner for MVP. Buffalo's running game wasn't great as well. I think Zach Moss was their leading rusher, like 40, 50 yards. So just overall, kind of a weird game. And I'm with you guys. I mean, it was tough to see the Steel. I think deep down, and I'd have to ask, how confident were you feeling going in 11-0 2 weeks ago? I mean, did any part of you feel that 11-0 was like, we might be the worst 11-0 team to have existed at this point of the season?
All right, well, you listened into Drew's shtick is bullshit there. First off, I don't like getting tag teamed, especially when we're talking about shit. But honestly, I didn't mind dropping a game. I don't think we were the worst 11-0 team ever. If you listen to the pod, I listed other 11-0 teams that I thought we were right on par with. The 2015 Carolina team built on really good defensive play, smart coaching, and enough offensive weapons to be dangerous. So I thought this Steelers team had a lot of that 2015 Carolina in them. But now it's hard, right? I mean, you get the monkey off your back at 11-1, and then you followed up with that performance. I think all Steeler fans were really expecting a bounce back performance. Yeah.
So I honestly think the biggest concern for the Steelers right now is your offense. It really has been all season, but I think no more highlighted than in this game. Deontay Johnson, I mean, you guys have a case of the drops. It's plagued you all season long. And you can't run the ball. is not a good combination on offense. The defense is still looks stout. But man, when that offense is not working, the Steelers just aren't working. And I don't see the offense, getting that much better over the course of the season.
So that's where I disagree with you, because I think the scheme is failing them. Right now, Ben Roethlisberger is throwing the ball 4.6 yards a carry. And how many times in that Sunday night did they talk about he was getting the ball out under so many seconds? You just can't throw the ball downfield or develop any kind of route running if you're dropping the ball out of your hand that quickly and throwing that short. So what I think passing wise, it just needs to be a scheme change. Like that quick passing attack worked until it's not. We're getting, the corners are on top of us. The linebackers are dropped slow in the box. So, I think the passing game is just a scheme. I think they need to go back to Ben sitting back in the pocket, 2-3 foot drops, and letting Juju and Deontay run crossers and Claypool running deep. So I think the passing game gets fixed that way.
Sure.
But the run game, I have no clue.
Yeah.
The O-line looks bad. The blocking is bad. James Conner hasn't played or got enough touches to get in rhythm. So, I think the passing game is fixable. The running game is not, and you kind of need both phases to put a playoff streak together.
Sure. All right, guys. Well, dude, another interesting game from last week. We just got to go ahead and talk about this Bucs-Vikings game, because you want to talk about ugly football, and really, not just Lamar shitting in the middle of the game. The theme of the week is the shit football that was played over the weekend. I mean, we're talking so many blowouts. From a betting perspective, I mean, there's so many overs being hit, so many lines being broken. But the Vikings game, what a just travesty. What a terrible football game just overall. First of all, I don't know what your guys' thoughts were on that game. The Vikings were clearly the better team through the first half. And then at the very end, like the last final minutes, they just fell apart. I mean, they had this bullshit pass interference call that went against them, all these missed kicks. And I've not seen a momentum shift like this in quite some time. What was your guys' take on that game?
For me, that's your Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a nutshell so far. I mean, they've been a team of two halves most of the year. So I guess I wasn't surprised that they kind of came out slow and for the most part, Tom Brady looking pretty shitty in the first half, missing two back-to-back. Those two back-to-back just clear misses, plenty of time in the pocket, overthrowing Godwin. I forget who he overthrew before the Godwin pass, but it was nowhere. It wasn't in the same zip code. So when that happened, I was like, oh, it's going to be another one of these. Tom Brady's going to throw two interceptions. It's going to be a back-breaking 3-point loss. But then you had Dan Bailey to save the day.
Yes. Dan Bailey, my God. And, the ironic thing about Dan Bailey's just god-awful performance. I mean, it doesn't get any worse than that from a kicking perspective. It wasn't that he was just missing long kicks. Yes, he missed a 54-yarder. He also missed a PAT. He missed a couple chip shots. I mean, this is just a god-awful performance. But the irony of this is that the Bucs, maybe even more than the Vikings, have been plagued by terrible kicking over the last couple decades. But, other than that, I mean, the Vikings played really well. It's weird that I'm still disappointed in the Bucs, even in a win. Did either of you guys feel that way? Because yes, of course they won the game, but man, there are still some things to be worried about. And one thing that I'm certainly worried about is Tom Brady.
So this show it's called Overreaction. So let's overreact. How many of Tampa Bay's 8 wins have just not been impressive? Like they've had a few games where they've been absolutely dominant. But, the Vikings lost this game more than the Buccaneers won this game.
Rams just absolutely destroy the Patriots. We're going all the way back to Thursday on this game. So we're kind of a late overreaction, but certainly the Patriots are done, right? Is there any chance of the Patriots popping back up again, right? None.
They're done. Cam's done. See you next year.
Yep. Agreed with that. Another just absolute, one of the most surprising games of the week, really. The Bears just absolutely destroying the Texans, 36-7. I saw some funny memes about this game. Mitch Trubisky looking at his best when it doesn't fucking matter at all. Dude, it's so true. Mitch Trubisky looked as good as he's looked in a couple of years. They beat the Texans, who, they got Deshaun Watson. Were any of you guys surprised by this?
I know
I was surprised by it.
I mean, from a betting perspective, I think it was Houston -1, and I actually thought that was a lock. I was like, wow, this is a little bit of a gift. I mean, Houston's been playing decent the last week or two. I think they've been in positions to win if they haven't pulled off outright wins. I just can't remember who they have last week, but they look good. But I don't know what happened. I don't know if the Bears defense finally, they kind of sleptwalked through last week and finally, I guess, decided to support Trubisky. Trubisky looked good, like you were saying, when it doesn't matter, probably hurting their draft stock a little bit. Maybe his plan to sabotage their opportunity to draft another quarterback. Who knows? But I hate the Bears, and I hate them even more after they cost me a couple parlays with this one.
No, so for me, the Texans got to shut down Deshaun Watson. They're going to get him killed. He got absolutely obliterated in that game. I felt so bad for him. There's no reason he needs to suit up for any more games. And as far as Trubisky, I'm going to steal a line from a fellow Indiana Hoosier alum and ESPN broadcaster, Dan Dockich. Mitch Trubisky is good enough to get you fired, right? Like, games like this, he confuses you. Well, he sucks, but then he has games like this, and he's like, well, maybe he doesn't. So that's a line that he uses a lot for performances like this, and nothing rings more true. Good enough to get you fired, Mitch Trubisky.
Dude, I love it. Honestly, that's a great take. And yeah, guys like that are so frustrating when they can look like that guy. Because there were so many times, during that 13-3 Bears run where Trubisky really did look like that guy. But man, he's not been that guy for so long, and now he is right towards the end of the season. What a mind fuck for the Bears organization. I love that take a lot. Cowboys shit all over the Bengals 37. And yes, we keep saying shit because obviously that's the theme of the week. Everyone's getting shit on, including the toilet in Cleveland last night. But should we even think anything of this game? Is this even a surprise? Are these just two terrible teams matching it out, and one team is just a little bit less terrible? What do you guys think?
I mean, this was a game I feel that Red Zone even forgot. I mean, I forgot this was going on. It was nice. It was kind of the Andy Dalton revenge game, I guess. But we knew the Cowboy season was done as soon as Dak went down, and they're just kind of playing through the motions right now. That defense was terrible from the beginning, whether they had Dak or not. I think this might have been the year, had Dak still been around, that they take that division easily, but it's a little unfortunate there. But, with Burrow going down, this is just a game you'd have to pay me to watch. I mean,
ding, ding, ding. You hit the nail on the head there, Josh. Cincinnati was weirdly competitive when Burrow was playing. Look how bad they are now. That's the only thing I gleaned from this, is that Burrow made this Cincinnati team one or 1.5 scores away from being competitive. You remove him from this team, and the Bengals instantly go to Jets bad. So that's my biggest thing is, right now I know Herbert's, stealing a lot of rookie headlines, and Justin Jefferson is obviously on the verge of something historical. But let's not forget who would have been Rookie of the Year had he not been injured, and that would have been Joe Burrow.
Absolutely.
That's the only thing I got to take out of this game.
True. Guys, I got to ask you, what is going on with Patrick Mahomes in some games this year? Sometimes he looks like the MVP. I mean, honestly, sometimes he looks like just the absolute MVP. But like Josh was saying earlier, I think Aaron Rodgers at this point is kind of running away with this. This was a terrible performance from Patrick Mahomes. 3 interceptions against the Dolphins, who, let's face it, they're one of the most opportunistic teams in the NFL right now. They have been all season. But 3 interceptions, not a good look. They scraped by in this win. Has your perception changed of the Chiefs or of Patrick Mahomes? With Aaron Rodgers firing on all cylinders, who is the MVP winner right now?
For me, I mean, it's still going to be Patrick Mahomes because they're going to go 15-1 and get the number 1 overall seed and be the odds-on favorite for the championship. So yeah, for me, it's less about who's going to be, if he's going to win the MVP or not. Because me, that's signed, sealed, and delivered, and DraftKings agrees. He's like not minus 600 to win it. Wow. So, I'm going to go with Vegas on that one. But he's going to see this quality of defense in the playoffs. He has a chance of running into the Colts or to the Steelers or Tennessee, who's playing a lot better opportunistic defense, or jump on the other side. He could run into the Saints, who are an absolute beast on defense right now. So, when I was watching this game on Sunday, I thought of Rocky IV. The Russian's been cut. It looks like there is at least some sort of blueprint, and it hasn't just been done once. It's been done several times this year. So now I firmly believe that, Kansas City isn't this unbeatable force anymore.
Yeah. About you, Josh?
I just think it's amazing that you can have the best, potential athlete in the world have a bad game and still find a way to win without really a sweat. I mean, I know they were down a few scores early, but I mean, it's just, even going back to the Bucks and Chiefs game, I was just in awe of how truly good he is. I mean, I know we've been watching him from a distance for your Bucks fan for 2 years, like, oh, Patrick Mahomes is great, but seeing him in action, he's absolutely incredible. I am a betting man. If I'm putting my bet in, of absolutely on Patty Mahomes, but I think dark horse, well, at least second, I think in the odds, it has to be Aaron Rodgers, and he's had an incredible season even at his age. I think kind of a couple hiccups, the Bucks game, of course, being the most notable, but other than that hiccup, he has been very consistent. He's been angry Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's been pissed off at the world. Last year, not his greatest year. A lot of criticism as they go and draft Jordan Love, is the heir apparent. He's like, you know what? I'm going to take this and run and play as good as I've played over the last 5 years, I'd say. So,
right.
I had a pick just to be different from Brandon. Going to go Aaron Rodgers.
And anyone will tell you that listens to this, going opposite of me is probably a good play.
Yeah. Just the way things have been shaken out, certainly. But, dude, I honestly, this could probably be one of our longest overreaction pods just because of how much took place last week. But we just got to continue to dig forward because there are so many storylines that have presented themselves. And maybe the biggest storyline from this last week is Jalen Hurts on a ridiculously bad Eagles team mobilizing this team. I mean, honestly, nobody saw this shit coming. Beating who a lot of, sabermetrics, a lot of advanced metrics that regard teams. The Saints have kind of been running away with it in terms of talent, in terms of the way that they're playing. And for the fucking Eagles to win this game, honestly, it kind of blew my mind. What are you guys' take on this game?
I couldn't believe it either. I mean, I think you had to pencil in the Saints for a loss or two, given that Drew Brees has been gone with, a million broken ribs or whatever his ailment is. I just didn't think it was going to be this game against the Eagles. You have a rookie quarterback coming in, great success at Alabama. But, I mean, I was really surprised, especially the Eagles taking a pretty big lead to start off the game and holding it through most of the game. A little bit closer at the end than it should have been, but Saints defense is just on another level. I mean, they're absolutely incredible. Doesn't matter who they have at quarterback, Taysom Hill. Heck, even if Jameis was in there, who knows? Probably still pull off that win. But the story is the Saints defense. until Drew Brees is back, they're going to have to carry them through. I don't know if he's going to be back for the playoffs or not. It's been pretty quiet on the update on Drew Brees' front in terms of if he's going to be ready or not. But
you think the story is the Saints defense? That's interesting.
I think the story for me is I think Philly took a playbook right out of what they saw last year in Baltimore. That's what it looked like to me with Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts. Obviously, nothing to play for this year, but to build a foundation. I mean, I think Jalen Hurts, is a better thrower than Lamar. He may not be the athlete in space that Lamar is, but I think there's a playbook out there for a running back the quality of Miles Sanders and a dynamic playmaker like Jalen Hurts, at least shown in one game. There's tape out. We've seen flash in the pan games. I mean, look at Trubisky. Not saying any one of those performances happened, but flash in the pan performances do happen. But what I'm saying is the potential story here is that combo and how lethal it could potentially be. And on the Saints side, as a Steelers fan, that's what cracked me up because everyone's still saying Saints are probably, still Super Bowl contenders. Like them and the Pack, they've lost to the Raiders and the Eagles. The Steelers have lost to the Bills and Washington. Like the Steelers have better losses than New Orleans, yet everyone's still counting New Orleans as a Super Bowl team. So as a Steelers fan, I laugh. I get a laugh at that.
Any variables pop out to you that might make that comparison more valid? Maybe the fact
Taysom Hill's leaving and Ben Roethlisberger staying.
Maybe the fact that the Saints don't have their starting quarterback, but okay. I love the Yinzer take, but honestly, Jalen Hurts. I said it last week. This Eagles offense is so broken. Carson Wentz is so broken in his head. You had to go to Jalen Hurts, right? They really had no option because he's the only guy that can work with this broken offensive line. He's the only guy that can work with this really broken offense. I loved it. Shake it up. But what kind of issues does this create for this organization to see this backup who is not their guy contract-wise? Like, what kind of issues does this create for them going forward? It's terrifying.
Well, you have a huge cap hit that hasn't even taken effect because Carson Wentz is still on his entry contract, and he signed a big extension, of course. So I think they're stuck with him, and then you can't trade him. I don't think anyone's going to take that cap hit, and even if you cut him, you're going to have so much significant dead cap. I mean, you're kind of screwed, I think, if you're the Eagles.
Yeah, honestly, and honestly, Brandon said last week, trade Jalen Hurts. Makes a lot more sense now. So maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're trotting Jalen Hurts out there to see if they can get a little bit more draft cap because they have no choice with Carson Wentz unless he ridiculously restructures his contract, which why would he? There's no reason for him to do it. They are stuck with him for the next, 3-4 years? I don't even really know what it is. His extension hasn't even kicked in. So they're fucked. They either have to have Wentz or they have to have Hurts. And if they have Hurts, they're still paying Wentz on the bench 10 times what they're paying Hurts. So, what do you do in this situation?
I love that take. I mean, maybe they truly are kind of grooming him and having a tryout, if you will, for other teams to see what kind of assets they can get. I mean, you have plenty of teams that are going to be starving for a quarterback. Chicago comes to mind. I mean, heck, even the Bucs need to start thinking about quarterback of the future.
Sure,
Josh. It's because I'm really, really smart. I mean, we can just come out and just say that. It's okay.
Love it.
Josh being not a part of the previous podcast is incredible somehow. All right, but dude, another great storyline from last weekend. And dude, this is just another case of me being wrong. I will tell you there's a couple times that I've been so fucking wrong. And one time that I've been so wrong is on Derrick Henry. I did not think Derrick Henry was going to be the guy he is currently in the NFL. He now has more 200 rushing yard games than any player in NFL history. Last week, it sealed it. Going into last week, the only other guy that was competing with him, Barry fucking Sanders. This guy is special. It's time to start and take notice of this guy. What do you guys think? Are the Titans, are they just Derrick Henry? Straight up. Like, are they anything without Derrick Henry? Like, Derrick Henry gets injured tomorrow. What are the Titans? Seriously.
Probably a hope and a dream with Tannehill. I mean, Tannehill's had, in his defense, has had some games they've had to depend on him for, but especially in the first half of the season, I mean, I feel like Travis Henry doesn't really get going till the second half of the season, at least the last couple of seasons. So, I mean, if you don't, I think the Titans really depend on the run. If you have to put a playoff game on the shoulders of Ryan Tannehill, I don't think it's going to go well.
Right.
But I agree with you that I wasn't expecting him to be this good. I mean, you think about the pedigree of Alabama running backs prior to him, Eddie Lacy coming to mind. He kind of thought he was going to fall into that same mold, a big overpowering back that maybe wasn't able to mesh into this offense, but he's been incredible. I mean,
Eddie Lacy, I mean, let's not just stop at Eddie Lacy. Trent Richardson, Josh Jacobs. Even Josh Jacobs is looking, he's not been that guy. You know what I'm saying? There's so many of these Alabama busts. Derrick Henry is the real fucking deal, though. I really, truly believe that there's no more arguing this point. This guy is special. But are the Titans so reliant on this guy that they are not even – are they really even that good without Derrick Henry is my question.
Are they good? Probably all right. I mean, I really like Vrabel as a coach, and I think Tannehill has enough to get it done, but they're not in the Super Bowl picture. They're a fringe playoff team. Without Derrick Henry, and I think the most exciting thing is, I mean, we've heard it all the time, so it's a slightly a lazy take. They play a brand of football that wins in January. Right. They just do. They play that ball control that can beat Kansas City because they keep the ball away from Patrick Mahomes. So he's a great compliment for that coach. He's a great compliment for that quarterback. And now that Corey Davis is somehow emerging in his 97th year of playing wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans, they're on the uptick right now. When the Steelers beat them pretty convincing, earlier in the year, I kind of wrote them off, but not now. I like what's going on in Tennessee.
Old 130-year-old Corey Davis in his 97th year. Who's older right now, Corey Davis or Frank Gore?
They're immortal. It doesn't matter.
Pretty sure Corey Davis is only like 27, but anyway.
Doesn't it feel like he got drafted high and he's just disappointing every year?
He seems like he's been around forever, and dude, he's had a great, from a fantasy perspective, holy shit, Corey Davis has been a stud this year.
Oh yeah,
been consistent as hell. He's absolutely been consistent as hell. Do we even need to talk about the Chargers-Falcons game? I'm just going to pose that to you guys. Give me a yes or no.
The Falcons lose in the fourth quarter again. We're done.
Yep. It doesn't matter playoff-wise.
Back-to-back turnovers to end that game. It was no one wanted to win that one.
I don't even think we need to talk about this game, but a game that I do think we need to talk about is the Raiders. I have shit on the Raiders consistently all year long. Brandon's been around for every single one of these shitting. And shitting is the theme of the cast. We're going to stick with it. But fucking the Colts just absolutely shit on the Raiders last week. And I truly believe that the Raiders are done within the AFC playoff picture after this loss. Thoughts on this game, guys? Does anybody think that the Raiders still have any chance at this thing? How embarrassing is this loss?
So it's embarrassing if Phillip Rivers is the reason you have to fire your defensive coordinator.
Yep.
Like that is
a great line. That's a great line.
Fucking hilarious. That's how bad John Gruden as a coach when Phillip Rivers goes out there and out fucking gunslings your coordinator to death. No, this team's been a fraud all year. Drew, you've been on this for the past 3 months. So props on you, and sorry for all the Raiders fans. That's kind of all I have to say about that.
Dude, what a great I'm sorry, I can't stop there. That is such a great line. If Phillip Rivers is the reason your defensive coordinator gets fired, fucking such a great line. Phillip Rivers is fucking terrible, and he looked like Peyton Manning in this game. Embarrassing. Josh, what was your take on that game?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can't beat that take. I mean, I think that sums it up. But like I said, the Raiders have just been questionable all year. There's some games where they look amazing. They beat the Chiefs, almost beating them twice. But then they drop a stinker here. They got absolutely annihilated by the Bucks. I mean, you can't trust them. They're done. It's a shame too, because Derek Carr having a career year. At some point, he was, mid-70s completion percentage on the year. Like, he was having an insane year. So
yeah, but he's having a good year. Like Kirk Cousins has good years. Like I really do believe he's up when the team's up, and he's down when the team's down. He actually did have a really good game last Sunday. Well, decent game. But yeah, I think the bigger story here is the Colts are good. The Colts overall team is very, very good. And this is just a game where Phillip Rivers just played slightly above what his talent level is right now. And I think that, if he can just do that the rest of the time, I mean, Brandon, we talk about all the time. The Colts are one of the most talented rosters in the entire NFL. Whether it be the defense, the offensive line, honestly, they got great weapons all around. This is
Ty's finally turning it around.
He's back.
Ty is back. From a fantasy perspective, Ty is back. So yeah, there's a lot to be excited from a Colts.
So this is an overreaction show, and I said I was done talking, but that's never the fucking case with me. Want to know how overreactionary the indie sports media are being? They're talking about bringing Phillip Rivers back on a 1-year contract again. They're like, his performance just shows he has enough left in the tank. Look at Ben Roethlisberger. Look at look at Drew Brees can't stay healthy. Phillip Rivers is the best of them. He's better than Cam Newton. Bring him back next year. I was like, oh, please do. Oh, please bring him back again. Fucking Irsay. Please do it.
What do you think? What do you think the Colts should do at quarterback next year?
Well, if they're able to keep their strength of their offensive line, I mean, why not? I mean, I guess if you can expect Phillip Rivers to game manage and you know what you're going to get with him, I mean, why not if there's no better options out there?
Stafford.
Yeah. We talked about that on our show last week. That what do you do with Stafford? I'd love to see him in a situation like that, because Stafford is, I think, on a better team and a better organization. Stafford's in the talk about future Hall of Famer. I mean, I think he gets lost in the shuffle.
Yep. All right, so Josh, that's pretty much the Overreaction pod. We don't do this often, but obviously we have you on as a guest this week. So you are a part of the Sports Heap. So tell us a little bit about your page and what you guys do.
Sure. Of course, I appreciate you guys having me on. Sports Heap's just a kind of a little project between myself and one of my great friends back in Florida. We love sports, talking about sports, and started off as like a basic podcast where we really struggled to record audio and splice it together. And it's really turned into kind of a live show that we do. Kind of been consolidating a few of our shows. We're big Bucks fans, so one of our segments we used to do was the Bucking Hangover. So really a Bucks overreaction show, if you will. I love Lightning's probably my favorite team. So I do the Thunderdome Puckcast. So I'll do a weekly podcast on the Lightning. We're following them, of course, during the big Stanley Cup run, doing some live reactions after each playoff game. But really, it's a hobby for us. We have a lot of fun. I'm pretty active on Twitter. Love your memes, usually reposting those. But yeah, it's just a hobby. We love talking sports. and sports gambling as well.
Oh yeah, man. So you post all your sports gambling picks.
They're terrible. Terrible.
How are you doing this season?
The season doing okay. I think overall the NFL picks I'm like maybe 53% overall. Really not doing well on spreads. So definitely a lot to learn. Maybe I'll have to hit up Brandon for some tips because I know he's been pretty successful. But again, just for fun, something to talk about. Going a big 2 for 10 last week with all the crazy upsets was pretty upsetting. So,
oof. So let me ask you a question. So, when did you guys get started? Where do you plan on taking this thing?
Yeah, so we just started maybe 2 years ago. We just had the idea of like, hey, we talk on the phone all the time about these sports, different sports. So why don't we just kind of do a podcast as a hobby? We'd love to build it up a little bit. We like the live show format, kind of like you guys do. It'd be great to have add some more viewership. But again, we just do it for fun.
Oh yeah, man, that's what it's all about. All right, guys. Well, that about wraps up the show. Any closing thoughts? Anything you guys have?
Please let week 15 be less shitty. The only person that wants to see that shit show again is OBJ. Everyone else wants to see good football.
Hopefully we'll keep pushing through.
Ayo.
All right, guys. From all of us here at the Sports Memery, and thank you so much to the Sports Heap, Mr. Josh, for joining us. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you so much.